Ladies and gentlemen, how are we today? All you beautiful freedom fighters and freedom lovers out there. Sorry, a bit late. Things didn't go according to plan. What a surprise. Hence, I just called this the Random Acts of Chaos video because it's kind of what's happened today. Unfortunately, our guest is unable to make it today. Last minute changes. These things happen. It's the wonderful world of live podcasting. I guess we can't call it television because it's too good to be television. Sorry, there might be a bit of noise out there. I just heard one of the children trying to break in. Obviously, they want to be a part of the show. That's fair enough. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of the show? That is the $1 million question. But anyway, sips, ladies and gentlemen. Is it too early? I don't know. Thank you, Linda. Love the intro music. That's written right here in this room with the help of the donations made by the wonderful people that help out us finally able to purchase the software required to do it. So, big thanks to Brendan and Vincent and obviously Gaza, who's been helping out quite a bit and made contact this week. Thanks, buddy. All our anonymous, Bitcoin Jason, Belinda, Jennifer, Aussie65, Jake Soy, the man who loves it so much he named it. He jumped in twice. Curly, Terrence, Ruben, Karina, Carla, Gaza. Oh, we already got Gaza in, but he deserves a second mention too. Lee and Jeannie, of course. Thank you all very much. And of course, our newbie, Annie J. Thanks heaps for coming on board as being a Patreon. So, g'day, Gaza. I see you there. May, thank you very much. It's been great having a yarn with you this week. All right, so we were going to have the lyrical criminal on this evening, who has a wonderful track called Townsville, but we'll discuss that another day because he's unable to make it, unfortunately. It is a good track. You can check it out at some stage. You just type in lyrical criminal into YouTube and you'll find the video titled Townsville. But, look, there's something that you come across my path this week that I thought, maybe, how do I work this in? Well, we're going to talk about music. So, I even got my old Bogan Nation t-shirt on. Check it out. Extreme Pub Rock and Metal. Old school shirt. I was going to present something that my son and I did. I think it was about mid last year, but half an hour is not enough time to dig through some old files and slap together a quick video that's at least going to be worthy of something that isn't going to make me cringe. I want it to look good. We might even have to revisit that one, Zach? I know you're out there listening. We might have to revisit it and do it properly. I think we need to add some more layers to that song and produce it. We've got all the tools we need now, so we can do that at some stage. So you got to kick Dad in the butt, mate, and remind me to get onto that, I'll get that going. It's a groovy little track, but in the meantime, I did come across this by the vocalist. It's one of the few times YouTube has actually suggested something that I thought, hey, that actually looks interesting. I had other stuff up at the time, and I just looked over to the right and I seen, oh yeah, cool, that looks really interesting. Because Megadeth, Rust in Peace is by one of my favorite heavy metal albums. I think it's probably considered one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time. And the song Holy Wars, The Punishment Due, is just such a fitting song for at that time, which was 1990. And I don't think it's ever stopped being relevant in the world today. And this is a really interesting way to look at the song if you've never considered heavy metal before, especially if you've never considered heavy metal before. Because, I looked at it and I instantly thought, you see the look on this woman's face, you see the Megadeth album cover, and I think, wow, she's a vocal teacher. She's going to rip into Dave Mustaine something fierce, because even in the heavy metal community, Dave Mustaine's vocal style is not always well appreciated. But I was surprised at her reaction to this song. That face is a little bit misleading in a sense, but I was impressed. She looked at the music in a way that I reckon I would too. Oh, well, I have too. It was great to actually see her really appreciate the song. So if you want to get into it and have a look at it from a musician's point of view, a vocal instructor, as I understand, she says she's a vocal coach down here, and get her opinion on it, as you may find yourself making that face it a few times, because it is a very jam-packed song, very complex musically and vocally. And I thought it was really impressive the way she picked the peanuts out of that fecal matter. So I'm going to drop that in the comments there for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you feel inclined after this show to get feeling flat because you didn't get the music we were supposed to get today, that can be a little side project and perhaps a little diving into the mind that is mine. So, g'day, Belinda. Good morning. How are you? It's still morning, you know. So I am working on stuff during this 3-week vacation that's coming up. If you haven't heard, I'm going to take 3 weeks off. We will be doing shows next week. So on the 11th and the 13th, there still will be shows. But from that point on, the last 2 weeks of July and the first weekend of August is out. We've got a lot of events happening here that my attention is required for. So I won't be able to help you out with podcasts, unfortunately, but we will be back, and we'll be back, or hopefully with some amazing changes and a little bit more of a new way of looking at it. Let's just go with new. So obviously we all know about the Solemn League and Covenant stuff. I think we covered that on Friday. If you go to Constitution Watch, you can get the information you need, because I know some people are having trouble getting contact once they've decided they want to put their weight behind Jackie's amazing work. And of course, if you're new to the channel, you should go back a couple of weeks and check out Jackie Dundee's work with the Solemn League and Covenant to understand more about that, or you can just go and read it for yourself at Constitution Watch, a wonderful website created by my good friend Darren. So we are here in the world of make it up as we go along today. This is something that I wanted to talk about on Friday, but we sort of ran out of time. So Australia's online censorship, you probably already heard, ladies and gentlemen, because I know you're so vigilant and out there looking at things, is on its way. Brings mandatory search engine age check. The thing is, when you read this, God knows what this means or what it's going to turn into. It's typical Labor legislation with ambiguity and terms that could fundamentally be interpreted as anything. It's an open door for tyranny. How much people like Google in particular, apparently that's the majority of things that people use. I don't know why people are still using Google myself. I think it's shit, but I guess in some way, shapes or form, even if you're using other browsers, they still pull information from Google's database just because it's just one of the biggest databases available. They spend a lot of time working on that, and anybody who's looked into it knows that military and CIA had a lot to do with the creation of these things. So is this the implementation of a long-term plan? That's the big question. How is this going to play out? Well, only time will tell, because their code does not spell out the measure to be used to assure someone's age. That's another, thing. They don't even know how they're going to do this. It's just like, it's like they're slamming this through without thought. What a surprise. Politicians not thinking. The only thing they've thought of is we need more control. We need to screw the people over. How do we do it? Well, let's just make it really ambiguous and hope that people figure it out for themselves. And, as so many people seem to do in this world, put themselves in the cage, and lock the door behind them and tell them, hey, look, it's safe. As long as you're in that cage, no one can get to you, hey? That's the fundamental principle. And you see it all the time as people build these big little forts around their homes and things like that, I mean, straight. We live in Townsville, and the nature of the song we were going to talk about was going to be about that very thing. I mean, there's a lot of dogs in Townsville, and they're not generally because people like dogs. A lot of cases it's because they want the dogs to protect their home. Because let's face it, as we were talking on Friday, this isn't a cost of living government. This is a cost of living crisis. It's a cost of government crisis, and the cost of government is the fact that they are not doing anything. They keep telling us that they're there for our benefit and to help us and look after us, but have they done that when crime runs rampant? It's just out of control. It's all out of control. So changing how people search, you could almost just change a couple of letters and changing how people speak, because that's what it's really all about. It's the restriction of free speech, Apparently more than 90% of Australians use Google for more than just searching. Unfortunately, they're tied into most of the Android services, which is a pain in the ass, including Gmail, Google Drive, Google Maps, providing seamless integration between search and other tools and tasks, apparently. I mean, if it wasn't being used in such a nefarious way, I could consider it, hey, that's a good idea. And it's not the technology. This is the problem. It's not technology. It's the fucking lunatics behind it and what they're doing with it. It's just same as guns don't kill people. I do. Says the old redneck hillbilly sort of thing. It's like, it's not the internet that's destroying people's minds. It's the people who are putting the shit on the fucking internet. Yeah, you could even say it's not government that's destroying the world. It's the fact that we allow it. It's just so many different ways to look at these kinds of things. But yeah, will the code work? Fuck no. At the end of the day, people are pushing back, and it's going to require a big pushback. I think everybody needs to hammer their local members with a hell no, we won't go. Yeah, and having driven the world towards internet dependency, it's just so well timed. Anyway, here's another thing we're going to talk about on Friday. I didn't get a chance to. A sacked street sweeper, Sean Turner. I'm pale, stale, and male, but I speak for the silent majority. So this fella here has successfully challenged his sacking for objecting to an acknowledgement of country at a toolbox meeting. Believes his legal win struck a chord with the silent majority. So if you're finding yourself having to put up with this shit and you're sick to death of doing it, and look, I go out on country with my Indigenous brothers and sisters all the time, and they think this is fucking ridiculous too. So, if you've got to deal with that crap, by all means, say not even the people of Indigenous descent are into this. Some may be, but not all, and that's the thing. You can't keep tarring everyone with the same brush. And the same way, don't go along with it. It's against my religious practices. That you have a constitutional right to your own religion. And they can't write rules around it. There's so many ways you can address this, but we now have a court precedent. I think it's got the point to the point where people thought a toolbox meeting. What next? It just never ends. He told the Australian in his first interview since the Fair Work Compensation upheld his unfair dismissal claim against Melbourne's Darebin City Council. And again, isn't it interesting? It's the councils. Good old cost of government yet again. And, it's the people of the city of Darebin there that have to pay for this fucking transgression. He's defended himself. He's probably got, costs awarded and whatnot. I haven't really looked into it too far. But at the end of the day, that's cost the ratepayer to push a political ideal that nobody's interested in. Like, we never got a chance. We did have a chance to vote on it, didn't we? And the majority of Australia said we've had enough of this shit. But these governments and these councils and these megalomaniacal dictators, is the most accurately called, don't seem to give a shit. They pretend that they're your elected representative, but they're actually an elected dictator. And it's amazing how even the good people you think are good, like Christian Price, for example, thought he was a good person too. Didn't take long for him to turn him into a completely selfish piece of shit. It's amazing how quickly, a big sack of money and a nice, cushy, easy job can turn you into a complete turd. So I'm looking forward to flushing that turd. So, work is full of pretty much programmed robots. You have got to be careful of what you say. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. And it starts at an early age, which we will talk about as we move on. But I think it's a great job here, old mate. Him and his rake, just an average Joe, got in there and made a great win. It's really good. So well done to him. What was his name? Sean Turner. Well done, Sean. Good job, buddy. Let's keep moving. Are property rights a thing of the past? Written by Senator Alex Antic. As the Greens have gone nuts. So, there is a video on this, obviously. And, what is it? Controversial bill allowing government to seize control of private land faces backlash. Again, unless you fight back, they'll just keep doing this shit. They do not give a shit. Excuse me. We might just bring that video in, because I think it's going to be a quicker and easier way of dealing with this. And we are in the realm of chaos today, so I'm literally flying by the seat of my pants. These are ideas that I kind of had that I would deal with next week, or things that I didn't get to deal with on Friday, for instance. So this is a half hour slap together of, right, what have I got? What can we make a show out of? Certainly not the first time for all you who have been watching this for quite some time. Where did that video go? It's in the own folder. All right, here we go.
For Project. My name is Topher Field, and I help busy people like you to keep up with the world as it changes around us. I've been doing this for over 16 years, and it's not often that a piece of proposed legislation makes my jaw hit the floor. But one such instance is some new legislation being rammed through in South Australia. I thought I would go straight to South Australian Senator representing the South Australia in the Federal Senate, Alex Antic, to try and get to the bottom of what this bill is, what it really does, and what its chances really are. Senator, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here on the Topher Project.
Yeah, thanks, Topher. Good to be with you. And yeah, very, very interesting times we live in here in South Australia. I'm a bit like you. I had to read this twice, maybe 3 times, in order to really get to grips with what it is and what it meant, and how it could even get this far, frankly. So bizarre.
Essentially, if we take the most extreme view of what this legislation would do, this is a confiscation bill, which would, under certain circumstances, allow the South Australian government to simply confiscate private property without any compensation whatsoever. That is, of course, in its most extreme form. Can you give us a bit more insight? What does this bill propose to do, and what problem is it proposing to solve?
Yeah, very good questions. Well, look, at its worst, what this is proposing to do is take land away from private owners who are deemed to be not using it or not trying to develop or use it properly, and create what really would be a statutory lease over that property, and for use in public terms. So they talk about, if you think about a piece of land in the middle of the city, and we've had a couple of examples here in South Australia with the famous Lacornu site on our O'Connell Street, for anyone who's listening from SA, where it sat there for, I think, the better part of 2 or 3 decades, with nothing happening, and it was a big story, and eventually it's been built on, and it's all coming along. But one of the proposals that was thrown around was, should the government compulsorily acquire it and turn it into a park in the interim, or public housing, or whatever it may be. Now, the problem that's being sought to be addressed here is one of, effectively, of homelessness and the use of public spaces, which, we all are very sympathetic towards. But to me, this is an extraordinary proposition in the sense that what you're doing is really taking a crisis which has been engineered by government and then trying to find a way to make government fix it, if you think about it. This problem with the housing supply has nothing to do with people making the right decision in their lives by investing. That's what our system does. And they're not always giant cigar-chomping industrialists. Sometimes these are just people that have done the right thing with their money and invested in property. To take the old option away from them to buy and sell at the right time, or to develop or do what they want with that land, is really turning your nose up at something in the order of 200 years of private property rights and property rights in this country. And it really just does, boggle the mind to think that you could try and impose a government solution onto the top of people who have done the right thing and saved for their future. It's quite bizarre. The other thing I'd say is that really this is not a problem which has become, simply, one factor. This is not just, as I said, wealthy property barons holding land and grinning maniacally. That's a fallacy of the left. What this is actually a product of is mass migration, things like net zero, which have caused the cost of everything to go through the roof, including building materials, and of course, government regulation, red tape, and this sort of impossibility you have in places like South Australia of getting things through because of local, state, and sometimes even federal regulations.
I love the way he's ripped into this and gone straight to the immigration, straight to the friggin' net zero, rising the cost of everything. This is, again, the cost of government, not a cost of living, the cost of government and the shit decisions that they have made that have created this problem. And again, emphasizing that it's the cost of government crisis we're living through. He points to the legislation again, restricting people's ability to develop that land. This is not the fault of the average land owner, who are the ones who have always driven the development of towns and cities and the construction of our society. In steps these lunatic radical greenies who have no friggin' idea how anything works, a head full of activist bullshit to create And I'm just going to diverge here because I think it's actually quite relevant to exactly what's transpiring here. Is this statement here by the radical leftist lunatic who, LGABC freaking thing, no grip on reality just by its association with these ridiculous concepts, said the bill was deliberately broad and that the aim was to give the government extra powers to incentivize, in other words, force the development of long-term land, But I mean, obviously, this is them again using the word force. It is typical of, these kind of communist radical leftists. I have an idea, I want my way, and I'm going to force it upon you. That's what this is really about. It's about forcing people to do what they want, They're the ones who cause the problem. Maybe we should force them out of the position to continue to cause more problems. Perhaps it's just an idea. I'm not suggesting by any means we should do such things. But when force is applied, and look, I'm going to get real scientific on this concept, it's really hard one for some people to follow. So I've got a visual model here to help, This is not about, creating. And look, it is the chaos theory. So let's, okay, that didn't work as well. I'm going to have to hold that. Where do we want it? There. And for those of you who are not familiar with Newton's second law of physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. These people have forced their opinion on us. And there's the reaction. Pretty simple stuff, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Again, this is a cost of government crisis. This is moronic leftist lunatics. They have pushed one way, they have caused the force to go to the other side, and it's going to come slapping back around the other. There's a lovely little piece of science being used for the purpose of this demonstration. Hope you all enjoyed the random act of chaos, which was that thought in my head. But let's continue to see what this senator has to say.
It has nothing to do with Airbnb owners trying to find nice places for people to go and live. They're in the gun sites as well, by the way. Many of these parties, the Labor and the Greens, are looking at that as a thing that needs to be corrected. Well, since when has a B&B in the hills in Adelaide been the problem for the housing crisis? Yeah. No, this is absolutely.
That is a great question, and I put the same question to our pathetic excuse for a council here in Townsville who's decided to raise the rates for B&B users here in order to pay for their exuberant pay rises. Fuck you, Townsville City Council.
Absolutely bizarre, and let's hope it stops in its tracks in the lower house here in South Australia.
Sorry to interrupt my interview with Senator Alex Antic. I'll be very, very brief. I am 100% viewer supported here at the TOFA project, and so I would love it if you guys would go to my website, tofafield.net.
Oh, that didn't work the way I wanted it to.
At tofafield.net and buy me a coffee. I do my best work when I am both angry and caffeinated. And if you haven't yet checked out my books and my DVDs, my other merch, that you'll be.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Well, there are so many interesting points that you brought up there, Senator, that we could go down many different rabbit holes, but this is not a slow chat. I'm just wanting to get to the bottom of this particular story, so I'll do my best to stay on track. But a lot of what you've mentioned there really brings to mind the old phrase, the government is good at one thing, it knows how to break your legs and then hand you a crutch and say, see, without me, you wouldn't be able to walk. So if they're trying to solve homelessness, etc., through these sorts of mechanisms, the confiscation of private property, are they making any efforts at all, perhaps, to make it a little bit easier for people to develop property, perhaps to build some lower socioeconomic housing that maybe doesn't have to be built to these exceptionally high specifications through net zero and other things? Are they making any other attempts in any other areas to actually fix these problems at the root cause?
Yeah, well, they don't seem to be, Topher. And in fact, this is a bill which was introduced here in the South Australian Upper House by the Australian Greens, and it was effectively waved through by the government, the Labor government here in South Australia. So, their view being we don't oppose this in principle, and we might try and make it, less awful when it comes to the lower house. So, but to turn to your point, no, look, they're not. And in fact, this is the constant complaint I have from people, builders and, people who own properties. It's nigh on impossible to get through that, that maelstrom of regulations. And if you do, the cost of everything's so high. So they're the things that government should be focusing on. And ironically, reducing the size of government, making there less regulatory hurdles for for businesses and people to build would be the thing to do, and effectively getting out of the way. I mean, these are old principles, and we go on and on and on about them, but the answer to this is not more government. I mean, the analogy is quite right with government breaking your legs and giving you a crutch. We see that time and time again, and particularly in a state like South Australia where the size of government is just growing by the millisecond. We're just not seeing the answers wrapped up in taking people's land away from them and turning it into a park so the kids can run around. It's just not going to make any difference at all, and in fact is offensive to the fundamental rights of property.
So look, you can go to see that at Topher's thing to see the rest of that. And where did I originally got it from? This article here. Oh, actually, that's the YouTube thing. Sorry. So here, if you want to watch the rest, go for your life. Let's keep moving. I do want to bring attention to Tina's post here at the Mirror meeting yesterday. Greenie didn't turn up. Wow, what a surprise. The acting mayor was too busy acting elsewhere. Must have been a stage show on somewhere, I guess. Adam Bailey bailed. Apparently, he was at the show. He was off living his life, having a great time, instead of doing his job. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Greenie wants to refurbish the rock pool. I wouldn't bloody put my big toe in that thing, to be honest. But anyway, and you're still waiting for the Sooning Bridge to be fixed, and the Picnic Bay Jetty. Council has to go sack them all. So there you go. The people of Magnetic Island are being neglected again, for her to continuously put on a ridiculous show. And why did that Sooning Bridge go down? Because council didn't maintain the area and clear the debris. They allowed the problem to continue and turn into a complete devastation. So wonderful leadership by Greenie as a councillor and acting mayor, where she completely neglected her duties, destroying a bridge at the cost of the ratepayer. Well done, Greenie. You're such a champion to the Townsville. I can't believe you haven't been chased out with pitchforks yet, to be honest. But I guess people just aren't revved up just enough yet. Maybe they need a little bit more of that push from Newton's second law of physics there for the pendulum to come swinging back and knock her out of this town. But all in due time. Let's see now. So what else have we got here in my random acts of chaos? Oh, you'll like this one. So Australia must formally adopt the UN Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People. Now, this is a pretty controversial issue. I know there's a lot of people out there who probably think that this is a step in the wrong direction. But I think, again, it depends on who you're talking to. If we're talking about handing the country over to people that that we've seen pushing the yes campaign, who basically just want to turn everybody who's not of Indigenous nature to basically their own personal little slaves, as one of the things that some people seem to have put forth, that they should we should all continuously pay reparations for a war you were never part of. Personally, my family's been here so long that we had to dig through the historical records to find out how we got here. So we obviously came here with bad intentions. I mean, I've personally caused no harm to these people. In fact, I've done everything I can to help them. So, I don't see how that applies to me and my family, and the primordial construct of, the sins of the past families must be passed down to the child. It's such a fucking stupid and barbaric concept in my mind to do that sort of thing, the children are innocent, But anyway, so in a submission to Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee inquiry into the application of UNDRIP. These fucking acronyms in Australia. The Law Council said to date the protections offered by the declaration have only been implemented domestically in a piecemeal manner. So the UN, you can see, is the one who's pushing a lot of this stuff. And I believe the UN has set this up fundamentally for the lunatic leftist activists, as we've seen, who are funded by communists and various other things we've seen throughout the Voice scenario. And Australia standing up and going, hell no, we won't go, was an amazing wedge between a desire to implement this stuff and the people saying how we're not going to have it, but on the other hand, there is a good group that I'm working with, that if this is done right, we can all come together and we can free ourselves from the corrupt corporation. So it's actually another angle that could be used to our benefit. And much like I was stating earlier about, You know, it's not the gun that kills people. It's how you use it. It's not the technology that causes the problems. It's how you use it. It's not these particular laws that have been put through, even if they were paved with evil intentions. We can reverse the concept, you know, rather than having the path to hell being paved with good intentions, we can have the path to heaven paved with bad intentions. There's always another way to look at this. And I think this could be something we could use as opposed to be afraid of. So I know the standard, you know, right winger sort of thing to do is to jump up and down about this and be pissed off, and they took our jobs, they took our homes, and all this sort of shit. You know, at the end of the day, that's a South Park thing, and but anyway. I just thought we'd look at that and just throw another idea in there that I don't think is that bad if we can get the right Indigenous people to work with us and as a community come together and stop the rot and the corruption. That's the real key to this, you know. But it's going to require all hands on deck. Calls for better planning as Aussie suburbs feel squeezed amid migration. Even the ABC saying it, housing and pressures. Now, what's fascinating about this horrific piece of journalism is that it comes all, when you come down to it, there's this big thing here. The bigger parts of the housing crisis that we have now is a natural increase of Australian-born population. All you people who've lived here for so long, that includes Indigenous people, wouldn't it? They're natural-born Australians. How dare they breed as well? You naughty, naughty Indigenous people, and you naughty colonials. You know, people like myself who've been here for generations, having 4 kids. What an asshole I am. You know, which is much larger than the migrant population, and more importantly, supply-side factors. Isn't that an interesting whopping pile of shit that they managed to inject into this piece of shit? Especially when you go to one of their other ones, Australia's birth rate hits rock bottom with severe consequences for economic future. Make up your mind, fucking ABC. Which is it? Are we breeding too much or not enough? What piece of fear do we want to sell this week? You know, it's just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. I mean, migration is a small part of the puzzle. You've got to be shitting me. You even said it at the beginning, calls for better planning as Aussie suburbs feel the squeeze amid migration. Like, it's just typical leftist shit. These people are just riddled with utter contradiction, you know, like diving any further into this, I may have an aneurysm. It's just shit, utter shit. And, you know, again, this is another burden that we, the taxpayer, have to bear as we fund this utter shit. You know, I mean, should there be like a government-funded community news? Quite possibly. Why can't they throw some money at me? I mean, can't I be a part of the ABC and actually add balance to the force here? You know, time for that pendulum to swing back, don't we think? Come on, this is garbage, utter garbage. Now, let's move along. I just thought I'd point out the ridiculous nature of that one. So, but while we're dealing with left-heartedry, here's a couple of videos I'll have to quickly bring in for this one. So, it's another one of those wonderful strokes of internet luck, I guess, you know, while I'm scanning through trying to find things, you know, at last minute scenarios. I actually come across this one video that I'm going to bring in, and it starts back in the 40s, you know, because let's face it, communism is not a new idea. It's a very failed idea. It has been tried several times and hasn't exactly worked out very well. But let's go back, and once you start to see this sort of thing, you start to see how much they're just the same dumbass ideas over and over again. You think we'd be wise to them.
43, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable buildups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact."
So it's the leftist bag of insults is what we're talking about here. You're a racist and stupid shit like that, which has all lost meaning as a result of this kind of shit, right? So, and what was fascinating about that was I actually found that before this one. So this other video here, which is a modern readaptation of the same construct here, and, you know, which is the one that just popped up on the screen. Here we go.
Is, you know, let's not be mean to people. Let's not offend minorities. Let's not make offensive jokes, blah, blah, blah. Never had anything to do with that. Political correctness was invented in the Soviet Union by communists so that they could say to critics of the communist regime, well, comrade, what you're saying may be factually correct, but it's politically incorrect, and therefore you should shut up. In other words, it's inconvenient to the party line of the day. And that's how political correctness is used always. It's about preventing you from expressing a dissenting opinion.
Much like that ridiculous friggin' article that we had up here from the gay BC, you know. This is exactly that kind of fucking propaganda, but you probably find that the people who've written this garbage are so immersed in it, they don't realize that they've had the psyop implanted in their head. They haven't broken the programming themselves, you know. And look, you know, you might not be convinced yet. Hey, look, Batty, found 2 fucking random videos on the internet. Whoop-de-doo. Does it really mean shit? Well, look, let's diversify and add another cultural element to it, you know. Another wonderful find. These things just come across me, you know, like it's like the gods of the universe themselves just place it upon my path at the right time for it all just to line up at the last minute.
That you don't even know who they are. Most people don't even know who they are. And this is a group of men that got together many years ago with one agenda that is called a new world order. Every government in the world has a secret government behind it that run the show. If you think that the president, the prime minister, you think they're doing it, they're puppets. They control armies, nations, governments, all the money in the world, all the richest families in the world, Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and anyone that somehow made money within a very short span of time has to be part of it. And you think that Mike Zuckerberg owns Facebook? He's a puppet. Facebook was created for their manipulation. Same thing with YouTube, same thing with WhatsApp and Instagram and Netflix and everything. World War I was designed by them. World War II, designed by them. Federal Reserve, which people think belongs to the American government. Doesn't belong to the government even. It's a private organization. NASA, CIA, the assassination of JFK, who was the first one who ever talked about it, got a bullet in his head. Needless to say, the attack on the Twin Towers, it wasn't Bin Laden. It was all one big agenda because they needed to go to Afghanistan. You know why? To put pipes. It's all one big show. We've been fooled and millions of Americans are cheering. We're going to a war against terror. Ah, you've been fooled. And you think it's different in Israel? You know that Israel was built by the Freemasons, by the way, by the Zionists. There's nothing here kosher. Who approved the Declaration of Israel? The United Nations, of course. An organization of peace and unity, and we love all. It's a terror organization built by the New World Order. All the founders of the country of Israel are Freemasons.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I don't even know if it's an AI video. I haven't even had a chance to check to see if it was real or if it's just AI generated to push a point. I don't know, but it's amazing because it just all fits with this. And you might actually think that I had taken the time to plan this the way this is fitting, but I can assure you I didn't. It's just the way I found bits and pieces, and this is the way it's slapped together in a half hour. Israeli restaurant stormed by protesters, synagogue set on fire. I shouldn't be laughing. I'm just laughing about the way this has come together in latest anti-Semitic attacks in Melbourne. You know, could you imagine if this had been, you know, the Freedom Camp going, hell no, we won't go burning down buildings because they didn't want the jab? Like, I mean, they would have truth. We'd all be in full-blown communist lockdown right now. But at this particular point, it seems that absolutely fuck all's being done, which is really funny. You know, it's like they want this outrage from the Jewish community, as far as I'm concerned. It seems to be the way. It's by plan, you know. And where are the big, rich Jewish people coming down with their big bankrolls going, right, we're going to, you know, do something about this. This is ridiculous. Amazingly, it's only the poor Jews, as usual, who are suffering. It's almost like I've seen this before somewhere in history. Anyway, the man depicted as is perceived, or detectives say the man was seen in the area around East Melbourne Hebrew congregation at the time of the fire around 8 p.m. Friday, and may be able to assist in inquiries. So they have released the picture, and I mean, I don't know, But I look at these eyes and I think they've been glued on. It looks like one of the Muppets. Like, what's the go here? What is that? This is the picture they've released. This is who you're looking for. Yeah, he's got Muppet eyes. I mean, that could be me. Long hair, beard, Muppet eyes. Except I don't have Muppet eyes. You know, put some black dots on my eyes and a beanie. Shit, that could have been me. Like, I mean, it's a pretty generic looking, Australian looking dude by the look of things. Could be anything. Could be anyone. It's a pretty shit photo. I mean, for those of you who are paranoid about the whole CCTV Big Brother watching everything, we should feel good that this is the best that the law enforcement can come up with. You know, the facial network, what is it? Facial tracking software. Fuck me, like god damn. So that's the best photo they've got. You know, probably lucky he wasn't, you know, somebody of color. They would have had to blur it out and pretend he wasn't. That's you, as we did in the news on so many occasions here. You know, nondescript person. You know, here's a blurry photo. Can you identify him? These people, my god, the man is depicted is perceived. The man depicted is perceived as being Caucasian in appearance. Like I say again, now if that was anybody else, they wouldn't have pointed that out. Is believed to be in 30s. All right, cool. I'm free. I'm nowhere near my 30s. Thank you. With a beard and long hair. So, well, you know, thankfully I'm not in my 30s. Otherwise, they might be dragging me in. Hey. He is pictured wearing a dark blue or black jumper because nobody else owns one of them, you know, black pants and a black beanie, you know, very, very descriptive sort of looking stuff, you know. I mean, truth. You have to wonder if they've gone and altered this photo. Like even the nose looks like it's been blurred here, you know, like I think they've actually altered this because sure, like even a shitty pixelated picture doesn't look this bad. And those black dots, that actually looks like they've been blacked out. That's my perspective of this. This looks dodgy as all hell. And that's the best photo they can come up with. My God. All right. So in a night of horror of Melbourne's Jewish community, an Israeli restaurant in the CBD was attacked after protesters raged through the city. The synagogue was targeted by an arsonist and 3 cars were torched outside the Greensboro business. I mean, you know, what's going on here? You know, Madam Dictator Dan II condemned the disgraceful behavior by a pack of cowards. Yeah, cool. So that's pretty much all they're going to do about it, isn't it? You know, it's not like you're going to lock things down or anything. You're not going to actually go after the real people. Should be condemned in the strongest possible terms. Yeah, cool. So what? So you're going to say a bunch of harsh words. It's what you guys are best at, really, isn't it? Police have not labeled the crimes as terrorism. What? It's not terrorism? Oh, isn't that interesting? But Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell condemned the attacks as a form of terrorism. Isn't it interesting? It's all a point of view, isn't it? You know, it's not terrorism when you're not the target, I guess. As she called out Victorian authorities for failing to crack down on soaring anti-Semitism. Yes, we've seen that because during Australia Day marches, people with Australia flags were told to stay away from the terrorists, or those who could be perceived as terrorists, perhaps, you know, because you're flying the wrong flag in the right country. Go figure. You know, they've allowed this to brew. They've allowed these people to go, and they keep importing them by the fucking masses. It's insane. In a statement released on Saturday afternoon, Miss Haskell said attacks on the Jewish people in Melbourne had continued because there have been no real consequences for those spreading hate and inciting violence. That would seem to be, you know, an accurate assessment because we're too busy worried about, you know, all of us naughty people being on the internet without ID. That seems to be their real priority, isn't it? You know, but silly me. It's not about us. It's about saving the children, you know, just like they've been saving them from those daycare centers that keep raping and abusing children. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Horrifying attacks. So it keeps going on. Like this is garbage sort of. Geez, that looks like a Masonic building. Funny. Interesting how they have the same design, isn't it? You know. Anyway, wonder if that video we watched before had anything to do with that. Funny. Interesting, hey? You know, I mean, it's literally into the architecture. You know, I mean, you might think I'm crazy, but I mean, we go. Let's just have a quick look here. You know, Masonic building, town. So although it's not the current Masonic building. But oh, look at that. There's a Masonic building in Townsville. Isn't that interesting? And it looks really similar. Hey, it's got the same symbols on the front door and everything. Hey, would have guessed? Bet you didn't see that coming, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. There's the Masonic building here in Townsville. It's not their current building. They've moved. I'm guessing, the giant, Roman style pillars and the Roman numerals, the Jewish symbols, the standard traditional triangular shape here. And if you want to understand this construction principle, I highly recommend going and checking this out too, where you can start to see a few more puzzles come together. Donald Duck. I bet you didn't see that. Donald Duck in Mathemagic Land. All right. Let's go take that to YouTube so we can get it. There you go. Here's your URL, ladies and gentlemen. Here's some more homework for you when you're done watching Megadeth. Check out Donald Duck, because nothing goes better than Donald Duck and Megadeth. All right. Trust me. I'm an expert on these things. They explain the mathematics behind these kinds of constructs, and you'll see exactly why they do what they do. It makes perfect sense once explained to you by Donald Duck. It works. Trust me. Trust me. If not, why the hell are you here? Anyway, where were we in that mounting chaos? That's right. We were looking at, the similarities in construction. So anyway, protesters riot at a Israeli restaurant. Diners at Miznon. So, let's see. Witnesses said the mob chanted "death to the IDF." So again, this is blowback from the Israeli government and what they're doing, which is another element that should be considered. Perhaps, Netanyahu should be held accountable for these sorts of things. Well, look at the constructs of the attire here. Hey, look, hey, that looks kind of like one of them politicians are seen, isn't it? She usually flies flags around the wrong way. Wow, what the interesting use of the tomatoes. Is that what they were about to hurl at protesters, I wonder? Anyway, no maggots. Lots of interesting photos. LGABC stuff. Maybe they were actually protesting this sticker, perhaps. You put that political crap everywhere and look what happens. No, things don't look that bad. Other than the fact that it's Melbourne. Hate won't bring peace. So is that why you go burning buildings down? Again, it's not very well done. If you're going to burn a building down, surely you would have thought about it a little bit more. It's a hardwood door. It's it's a little bit of damage. What's that? The homelessness. Anyway, let me get the idea. This situation is going to continue to escalate because they want it to escalate. It's that simple as far as I'm concerned. They've allowed it to brew for so long. They've allowed people in Parliament to even carry on about this crap. We've seen the Palestinian nut job go on about this stuff too. And look, I get it. At the end of the day, the Yahoo himself is the problem here. Trump keeps trying to call peace, and this Yahoo keeps going, fuck that, let's throw bombs. And you got other idiots around the world also going along with the fact that, hey, we need this. We need to distract away from the fact that Ukraine was a really stupid idea and that they created that problem too. Exactly, Jake Soy. That's exactly it. And it's just another example of just how toothless the UN beast really is. It's just a bunch of words and bullshit. They don't step in. Why hasn't the UN stepped in? And you can go to the UN page, and they'll tell you all about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza that's been going on for about 2 years or something now. If anything, it's been going on for decades, really. Let's not beat around the bush here. They've allowed this situation to come to this point. What is their purpose? All they do is sit there and go, naughty, 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 you shouldn't do this. And he keeps going and doing it. It's that kid, who keeps carrying on and never gets punished. So he keeps doing it, Nuts, absolutely nuts. Anyway, so Celine Against the Machine had an interesting video, and this will segue us into the next point, I believe. Let's grab some videos here, because obviously we had a little bit to do about the whole child abuse scenario the other day, and how it was all about the blokes and whatnot. But we've seen a few things recently here that suggest that, you know, maybe it isn't just the blokes, maybe it's just the daycare centers themselves somewhat toxic. So actually, I think it was here. Yeah, here it is. So woman 22 convicted of abusing 21 babies at nursery where she worked. Lovely piece of work, this one. 22-year-old nursery worker has been convicted of abusing 21 babies. Like, wow, including kicking a little boy in the face and stepping on his shoulder during a harrowing campaign of abuse. What a piece of shit. And you have to wonder, I mean, again, you don't just... I generally believe that humans aren't born that way. There's probably a few that have got a loose wire here and there, but for the most part, you have to wonder what happened to this person for them to want to be that way in the first place too, because it's just a chain of events. And it's not me sticking up for them. It's just fucking, you know, it's bad. People need help to prevent this shit from continuing, and this is the kind of shit we're seeing. And what kind of a piece of shit does that, you know? And what kind of a fucking upbringing did they have to make them like that? That's one of the big things we've got to ask. Because you got to start at the root cause of the problems. But yeah, it's definitely not just men. We can't just... I mean, if you're going to go and ban blokes because one bloke fucked up, well, we've got an array of women who have done it. Yes, the next logical conclusion is shut down all daycare centers. You know, like I said, personally, I wouldn't put my kids in one if my life depended on it. I'd rather live on the streets in a tent knowing that my kids are with me. You know, it's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And of course, I mean, what's our government really ever done about these things? Well, let's have a look.
Is caught up in this. Two of her little girls. She's burning with rage, as you would expect her to be.
Burning with rage, you say, Jason Clare, Federal Education Minister. I wonder, your friend, one of your best friends, I wonder how much rage she's going to hold when she realises you were a senior staffer inside Premier Bob Carr's office when the cover-up of the Woodrow Commission was orchestrated.
That's an interesting question, what the? It's a good point. I mean, you have to wonder if the jab has rewired people's brains in some way too. I mean, it's a legitimate question. Is it, you know, talking about this one here. I mean, has it caused a severe mental instability in some people? I'm saying, well, but, you know, you got to wonder what kind of psychological effects it's had. I know some people who have been open about, you know, hey, I went and got that shit and I just don't feel like me anymore. You know, some people have said that. You know, I mean, I can't speak to that because I wasn't going to line up for fucking human medical experimentation. But you've got to wonder. You've got to wonder.
Woodrow Commission, as you know, Mr. Attorney, was about to explore, and it's in the Hansard, so it's no great secret, who the legal fraternity people were that used to attend Costello's, the boy brothel club in Kellett Street, King's Cross. And I've actually got the list here. And a lot of them are still practising. But the judge of the day of the Royal Commission decided it was a no-go zone. And Paddy Bergen, counsel assisting at the time, said, we'll rise for morning tea, and they never went back to it. And I did ask the Commissioner why. He said, we've decided not to revisit that issue because the public would lose confidence in the judiciary.
The public would lose confidence in the judiciary. That seems to be under the based assumption that I actually had any to begin with. Lost confidence? No, I never had any confidence. You know, I've got history books. I can see how this is all just a show.
Advisor to Bob Carr, I would suggest you were probably privy to the we'll rise for morning tea, and they never went back to it.
Anyway, leave it at that. It's a bit hard to hear her. But I wanted to mostly focus in on that Wood Royal Commission because it's amazing how much they've just turned the fucking blind eye. And even Pauline Hanson, when these things are brought up, has a wonderful thing. Can you bring the proof? Can you bring the proof? Because at the end of the day, unless you've got somebody who's willing to witness and come forth and say this shit happened, all it is fundamentally hearsay. And because, wow, the government's got a gag order on it themselves, they can't talk about it. It's pretty bad shit. Pretty bad. So I thought I grabbed that video. Here it is. Let's do this. This is the video that I was going to start on before I got distracted.
Imagine your 13-year-old coming home from school one day and telling you that one of the activities they did that day was writing their own personal dating advertisement. What I'm about to show you are all screenshots taken from this resource here, which, as you can see here, is recommended for years 8 to 10. So we're talking 13 to 16. These resources are jam-packed with such inappropriate content. And of course, there is an abundance of gender ideology. Gender ideology is pseudoscience, and they're teaching it to these children like it's fact. Don't believe me? Just look at all these terms for sex. We've got pleasurable, cool, experimental. It's cool, it's very cool. Gender. And
which
they
is
learn
really
the
interesting. Like, I mean,
what I'm about to show you are all
they're
definitions.
using those terms in association with sex. Because when I was a kid, you were scared shitless because of all the fucking diseases you were going to get. You know, that was a sex education we got. Don't do this. Here's a picture of a rotting green dick. Well, I mean, yep, cool. I'm sold. I won't touch her. I swear. Fuck. You know, now they're encouraging this shit. You know, there's more diseases and shit getting around than ever, and now they're encouraging this shit. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, any young people out there can tell me, do they still show you the green dicks and the rotting vaginas? Like, do they still show you that stuff and all the the horrific results of herpes and things like that? Nothing like a good pustule on the end of a knob to make you want to go and have sex, eh?
Of all of these words. Sex, sexuality, and gender. And it's news to me that sexuality is not about who you have sex with. Gender, gender identity, gender binary, cisgender, transgender, gender fluidity, non-binary, which is bullshit. Gender affirmation, gender euphoria, gender expression, gender pronouns, gender queer, gender questioning. It's so much. Here's one I haven't even heard of before. Endosex. Like, what? Cisnormativity. This one cracked me up. Homonormativity. So if you're just a regular, normal gay man who wants to get married and practice monogamy, sorry, you're being homonormative. Then we have this activity here.
That's a good one. I didn't realize that. Even just straight, gay, and lesbian people now, fags or whatever, now they're being attacked too. Truth. Like, talk about thinning the herd. We really have brought this down to a very select few of the weirdest, sickest people that are allowed to actually be themselves. Everybody else is somehow just too normal, as we've seen by that wonderful ad for Jaguar that managed to get them a 97.5% loss in sales throughout Europe. Well done.
Which kind of insinuates that the children in their classes are already in intimate relationships. And then after they do this activity, which I showed in the beginning, the one where they write their own personal dating advertisement, the kids are then instructed to move around.
Why would you encourage children to write a dating advert? Like, are they really encouraging the fact that the only way that you can find a relationship now is through a dating app? Are dating apps funding this shit? You have to wonder, because it's I can't understand why you would be doing it this way. Like, wouldn't you be perhaps encouraging them to talk amongst themselves if you're going to try and hook them up in some way? Plenty of kids in the class. I don't know.
Down the class and try and match up. This booklet is 280 pages worth of absolute bullshit, and it's being taught in every Australian school. Respectful relationships programs are in every state, in every school. Even the private schools, even the Catholic schools, it's all of them. Oh yeah, and here's an activity where the students are instructed to act out different scenarios involving sexual harassment. How actually traumatizing for students that have gone through something like this.
And how many of them never thought of it? Much like my brother, who never thought to try and burn the house down until a firefighter come in and said, don't play with matches. So what did he do? He went and play with fucking matches. You know what? Don't put the idea in kids' heads. Deal with it if it should arise. At the end of the day, if you're not planting the idea in someone's head, generally doesn't get there, which leads me back to what I was saying earlier about the kind of sick fucks who slap babies in the face. You know, what idea was planted in their head in the first place to think that was a good fucking idea? What kind of people have they been hanging out with? What were their school teachers teaching them even? You know, there's a whole long chain of sick fuck societal shit going on here, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't just shit that just arises overnight. This has been done for generations, hundreds of thousands of years of sick fuckadry. It's my new word for the day, sick fuckadry.
Or this one here, where they are to engage in a role play based on what the research tells us about the diversity of young people in relation to sexuality and sexual experiences and practices. These are 13-year-olds. So yeah, that's just a little snippet of what goes on in these booklets. And when I say snippet, that was literally just the first chapter of the booklet. There's 2 more. What these idiots don't realise is that exposure when it comes to content like this does do more harm than good. That's why we're seeing a spiking rate of child-on-child SA in schools. So yeah, parents, get involved in what your children are learning, stay vigilant, and speak out.
Love the lady's work. She said exactly what I said. You know, they're planting the ideas, they're sowing the seeds, they're creating the shit, they're fanning the flames. They're not making things better. They didn't go, hey, let's get the fire extinguisher and put the fire out. No, they're like, hey, quick, that chair over there looks like it'll burn well. Quick, kick the door down. We'll throw that on the fire too. These people are idiots. They haven't got that quick. Somebody get a big sheet. Let's fan it. Yeah, way. Oxygen, fuel. What else do we need to make this worse? Fuck. No, you know, they're all nuts. They're all friggin' nuts, you know. And like people who the teachers, that if you're still in a school and teaching this shit and you're not standing up and saying something, you're a part of the fucking problem. Sorry, but you know, it is at that point. I don't want my kids anywhere near the school. I mean, you know, the older ones are near the end and they've chosen to continue through this shit. It's their life choice, but I don't think the younger ones are going to see the inside of these fucking places because this is sick beyond all reason. So, but the child abuse doesn't really end there, does it? You know, let's take this from a more historical and perhaps humorous point of view.
Sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
It is. And you get around town. Yeah, how you going, mate? Yeah, living the dream. Yeah, have we figured out whose dream it is? Yeah, because it's more of a nightmare on this end. That's the general conversation you have as you walk around these days. But, you know, it's interesting, the red, white, and the blue, isn't it? Because what's the color of our flag? What's the color of the French flag? It's the color of the British flag. You know, and it goes on. You know, even the Russians are red, white, and blue now. It's fascinating, very fascinating. Here's a little quick Google search based on a random thought that just popped into my head, because that never happens on this podcast. Random thoughts popped in my head. God, no, never. There you go. Look at them all. The red, white, and the blue. And it's coming at you from multiple different angles. Absolutely astounding. And this is not all of them. This is certainly not all of them. You know, just a quick squeeze. Just a quick look at it all. Look, here we go. Here's another one. Look at them all. Red, white, and blue coming at you from all directions. Now, some might ask why. Some might have thought never even occurred. The thought may never have occurred to them. You know, it's interesting how there's so many of them are fundamentally based on similar principles. You know, it's always the same concepts because they're all coming from the same occultist constructs, really. You know, red, white, and blue. Egypt. Interesting, isn't it? Fascinating stuff. How quickly you can just put these things together by changing one word in a search engine. You know, look at all the wonderful red, white, and blues. You know, yep. This shit actually goes back to ancient Egypt. Where is the holy lands and the holy stories come from? Egypt. Fascinating stuff, wouldn't you agree? Fascinating stuff. Here we go. AI assist. Apparently it's thinking. That's good to know. So there's another one, and it hasn't come up here, but fundamentally, you know, it's basically north, south, and center. You know, divisional concepts, you know, throughout the Egyptian cities. But that's something you can all dive into a little bit more by asking random chaotic questions, much as I do. Oh, just the thoughts pop into your head, follow them. Where does this crazy shit lead me today? You know, because it's amazing how much you can channel these things from your own mind. So, actually, I want that back. Universe is speaking. Can you hear it? So the year 1816 is known as the year without a summer. It affected the entire world and claimed at least 10 million lives. I'm like, okay, cool. I want to know a little bit more about that. So the Mount Tombora and the year without a summer. And the summer the summer of 1816 was not like any summer people could remember. Snow fell in New England. Gloomy, cold rains fell throughout Europe. It was cold and stormy and dark, not like any typical summer weather. Consequently, 1816 became known in Europe and North America as the year without a summer. Yeah. So why? A volcano went off. So why was there so little warmth? This could be found on the other side of the planet at Indonesia's Mount Tombora, or Bora, I guess that's how you say it. You know, on the 5th of April, 1815, a volcano started to rumble with activity. Over the following 4 months, the volcano exploded. The largest volcanic explosion in recorded history, you know, which is fuck all in the scope of things. You know, when they say recorded history, what, last 100, 200 years, you know, many people close to the volcano lost their lives in the event. It ejected much ash and aerosol, and we all know about these kinds of things if you've looked into anything of the basics. But what I found interesting is other websites, so you look at it, will go, well, this just demonstrates how bad climate change is. I'm like, oh my fucking God, this was 1816, you fucking retard. Like, where were all the cars? It's a volcano. It's a natural occurrence. And what it really demonstrates is it doesn't matter what you fucking do. It doesn't matter how many solar panels you put up or wind farms and how much rainforest you want to destroy in an effort to save it. All it takes is one volcano and there's nothing you can fucking do. Let's get a grip on reality, ladies and gentlemen, that the earth itself is the biggest problem here. It does crazy shit sometimes, and you just have to live with it, you know, rather than preparing for, okay, this shit could go sideways, and these are the things we could do to perhaps, you know, deal with it should such a, you know, thing occur, you know, in case of emergency, break open glass, you know. No, let's just keep everybody fearful of the fact that it's you, the human race, for living is the problem. It's not, you know, because, you know, it's a cost of living crisis, remember, because it's your life and you're living and you are costing because you live, you know. No, remember, cost of government crisis, ladies and gentlemen. We are rebadging it from this day on. Spread it far and wide. Whatever you hear somebody say, it's, oh, the cost of living. No, shut up. Stop right there. This is a cost of government crisis, and this is why. And all you have to do is just let the first shit that pops into your head fall out of your mouth with passion. It's not hard. So, according to the notice, half of all recent refugees in Australia are on welfare, and 44% can't speak English. Well, I don't know about you, but I've been grunted at by people who cannot speak English who need help. It's wonderful, you know. Nothing like and a torch and a packet of batteries being thrust into your face. So you want to know if these batteries fit this torch. And this, you see here, double A. Now you want to learn this one. Important. It's the first letter of the bloody alphabet. Anyway, half of all recent refugees who have settled permanently in Australia are on unemployment benefits. So I thought these people were supposed to come in here and they took our jobs. See the way I brought that back? 44% can't speak English. No sprechen Sie Deutsch. Non sprechen Sie English. Or Sprasha, sorry, depending on whether you're North or South of German, as I've discovered. Anyway, and 1 in 5 have a long-term health condition. So how are these people contributing to society exactly? Long-term health conditions are a burden on the medical system. They're a burden on unemployment benefits. And they continuously tell us unemployment is one of the biggest costs to the cost of government, you know. And they're just importing more and more bludgers. And they want permanent visas. Yeah, life's great here. You guys give us everything. I don't want to turn people against migrants. Because you know, just to be fair, let's bring that video back that we looked at on Friday, because this is what I consider a proper migrant, somebody who's actually immigrated into the country, learnt the language, become part of the society, and so much part of the society, they're pissed off for the same fucking reasons, you know? Here it is. Check this video out in case you missed it Friday. It's such a good one. I think it's worth watching again, even if you have seen it.
Talking about immigration in Australia at the moment. So I call this the Aussie immigration complex, and this is just my humble 2 cents opinion, so don't roast me too out in the comments. So at the moment we have our federal government, which is the cinema over here, represented by someone behind the counter selling tickets, and over here is our country, represented by a movie. The movie is called Australia. Now obviously when you go see a movie at Event Cinema or Hoyts, for example, the seats are quite limited, and these seats are a metaphor for our limited housing. Now, obviously, some of us are already sitting in one of these seats. Either we have purchased the seats, which means we own the seat, or we have a mortgage against the seat, or some of us are renting these seats, for example, paying rent. Now, talking from a migrant's perspective, for example, I'm a migrant myself, my family's a migrant. The normal process is that, you know, we hear that Australia is the next biggest new movie, the next biggest blockbuster. We can't wait to line up at the cinema to watch this movie. So what happens, naturally, all over the world, obviously non-Australians would line up at the cinemas to purchase tickets to then see this new movie called Australia. And obviously the person who's selling the ticket, because, you know, the status over here is like, well, there's still seats available, you can go in, and then people line up and then they buy tickets and they go in. But then what happens is, due to limited housing, limited seats, limited space, the cinema is packed with people and the status now is full. But what happens if the mofo sitting behind the cinema counter continues to sell tickets to let people in? Like, people are still lining up. This mofo, the dorky pimple teenage mindset politician, decides to keep selling tickets so people keep coming in to watch this bloody movie called Australia. Now what happens is the existing people that are watching this beautiful movie called Australia, they were fine before, but then more people come in, and then, you know, people are walking in front of the fucking movie and going, yalla, yalla.
I just love the way, you know, he started off at the beginning and you can see he's tried not to swear, and it's mofos and things like that. And just like, as he gets more and more passionate about it, he becomes more and more just like me. Love it.
And another one is like, oh baby, habibi. And another one is like, ni hao ma, blah, blah, blah. And then the people over here were like, who are these motherfuckers? Why are you guys blocking the screen? While I'm sitting at the back over here because I can't afford gold class, because, you know, I'm not VIP, I'm just like a middle class Australian having a fucking rant. And then next to me is an Indian mate, and he's like, brother, do not say that you are Chinese. Those people are Chinese. Do not say that you came from immigration too. And while I'm sitting over here with my large size popcorn, which I bought at the candy store, which used to cost $5 many years ago, but now due to inflation is now $20, which I'm really pissed off already.
And I agree. And there's our cost of government crisis.
I remember back then, yeah, I came here on the premise that it wasn't full, it wasn't packed, and there were people in front of my fucking face while I'm trying to watch and enjoy this movie called Australia. I lined up, I bought the tickets, I came in. I'm having a rant because the place is full. There shouldn't be more people coming in.
Somebody get this man a fuck off we're full sticker. He needs it on the back of his car ASAP.
And suddenly no one's enjoying this movie called Australia anymore, right? In the cinemas, everyone's bickering, right? I'm having a fight with this Indian mate. Over here, Lebo's having a fight with another Italian. Greek's having a fight with the Chinese. Whatever it is, everyone's bickering over here. And while we're doing this, old mate at the fucking cinema is then walking back to the back office over here, counting his stash. Look how many fucking tickets I've sold. Man, I'm gonna make bank before I retire. In the midst of this guy's evil laughter and the bickering of the existing locals in the cinema, the new residents that come into Australia because they are promised, this ticket, you can watch the beautiful Australia, they come in and go, what the fuck is happening? Then we have a new migrant coming in and go like, hey, excuse me, can I sit down? I'm new here. And the person...
That's provided they speak English, because according to this article, 44% of them can't.
Sitting down over here is like, fuck off, mate, you dickhead. And then this new migrant over here gets a bit scared and runs to another migrant and goes, oh my God, these people over here are racist. And as we slowly zoom back out in a bird's eye view, we start to identify the Aussie immigration complex. We start to see the people in this cinema, regardless of those who have a seat or those who do not have a seat, they all have the intention to watch this beautiful movie called Australia. That is their intention. And instead of hating on each other and blaming each other for the limited seating in the cinema while we're trying to watch this movie called Australia and be divided by our cultural differences, let's just agree we all got duped by this cunt over here. All right? This cunt is still selling tickets.
Like I said, he naturally progresses to the standard state of Australia. These people are fucking cunts. Fuck the government.
And this cunt is raising prices at the candy store. This cunt always wants us to be divided, fighting against each other so that we do not pay attention to what they're really doing, making bank every day at the back office. Well, they keep selling tickets to the potential moviegoers of the world, which watch a trailer of Australia and go, wow, I want to come into this country. But they do not know that we're full. We have limited housing, limited seats. In my own humble opinion, the only way to solve the Aussie immigration complex is for those who have a seat. Every person stand up, boom, 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 and align with those who are walking around. Let's together march towards the entrance, and the mass mob over here overthrows this motherfucker over here and burn this motherfucking cinema down. Yeah, I know it's kind of dystopian, dramatic, but what other solution do we have? Jump in the comments, let me know what you think.
Oh, well, what do you think of an immigrant's point of view? I mean, I keep trying to say perhaps we shouldn't go burning things down, but I mean, it's hard to look at the Parliament House and think, what else is this but a wonderful pile of kindling? I mean, is it serving us any purpose? Are these people helping us in any way, shape, or form? And it doesn't matter who you vote for. They walk, as soon as they walk in that door, they become an absolute piece of shit. Isn't that right, Christian Price? Absolute piece of shit. It's amazing how quick they will sell you out because they've got a cushy job and all the benefits and everything's working out well. They get their free drinks at the footy game and all that sort of shit, at your cost. But hey, look, when we get that pay rise, we'll do something nice, like, we'll buy somebody who's a little less fortunate. We'll go and donate it to some crap charity that's never achieved anything, And look, some people may differ in their opinion, but personally, I think one of the most useless charities in the world would have to be the Cancer Council. The absolutely most useless. Have they achieved a fucking thing? How many billions and millions of dollars have people desperately donated in there because, they've seen someone they know suffer and they've been caught by the sales pitch? Oh, if only we had more funding, we could have done something and saved them. Really? It's got to be the most well-funded research in the fucking universe, and you cannot come up with a cure for cancer. But hey, look, we were supposed to believe that spicy needle, that'll sort us all out. Yeah, righto. If you believe this shit at this point, ladies and gentlemen, you really are the most gullible idiot on the face of this planet, And I humbly, want to see more migrants like old mate here who put that video together. That is immigration. That is somebody who's come to Australia, embraced what Australia is about, and gotten on board with the government is the problem. The government. don't need to turn on each other, and that's what I really wanted to emphasize that before we continue to look at this particular article. Because, I'm sure there's some left-leaning fuckwits out there who'll go, oh my God, he's a fucking racist. Okay. As old mate himself pointed out, the problem is the government, and this is what they've brought in, by not having proper checks and balances in, like, can you speak the English, speak English, it's not hard. Like Stormtroopers of Death, wonderful band, and they had a song called Speak English or Die. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. That was back in the 80s in America. So anyway, according to official data released in the Australian Bureau of Statistics this week, the cohort of asylum seekers called humanitarian migrants by the ABS who arrived since 2017 have had far worse settlement outcomes than previous streams. New figures, it's going to be cold now. Turn that down. New figures on the long-term health conditions show the humanitarian migrants are more likely to have a long-term health condition than family and skilled migrants. 22% reported one or more, compared with 20.1% for those who arrived on family visas and 16% for skilled stream visa recipients. Not good numbers, are they? The most commonly reported long-term health condition for humanitarian migrants. What the I need to Google this term, humanitarian migrant. Like, what is their definition of it? I'm going to say bloody refugee. Oh, look, refugee. There you go. Recently arrived humanitarian migrants. Isn't that just a really nice way of saying refugee? It's like the word refugee has got a stigma, so they need to come up with a new fucking stupid term to make it sound better than it is. Again, I'm struggling to see where's the women. Of course, they need the kid running out. He's probably the only 2 kids on there. They probably ate the rest of them. Who knows? But, I mean, look, I get it. These people are coming from shitholes. They've allowed their country to turn into a shithole. They've allowed corrupt governments to do their bits and ruin their nation. And now we're supposed to do the same. No. It's just, this is a bad tenant. This is like a case of old mate's down and out. Look, dude, no worries. You can sleep on the couch for a couple of weeks, like until you get your shit together. But a couple of weeks has become a couple of months, and it's no longer just old mate who's down and out. Old mate's bringing his mates around. His fucking cat's shitting in the corner. His dog's leaving dog hair all over the place. This is not helping a mate out anymore. This has become a real freaking problem. And especially when all of a sudden you're outnumbered by old mate and his mates and his dogs and his cats and all the other shit that he's brought into your house. My quality of living's gone down. These guys aren't working. They're not contributing. They're not paying the bills. I'm going to work doing all this shit. Well, old mate, every man and his dog and his cat are now in my house because I had a moment where I thought I'd help a brother out in pain. But I think that's what, I don't know, help me out. Do you think this is a wonderful analogy to what's actually happening here in Australia? Like, we've helped a couple of people out and now they're coming in by the boatload. And I get it. They want a better life for themselves. Shit, if I was living in a shithole, I'd want to live a better life for myself too. In fact, I feel like I am living in a shithole. I'd hate to see what kind of shitholes they're coming from. We're living in the shithole that has become Australia as a result of, what's the catchphrase, ladies and gentlemen? The cost of government. The cost of government crisis. I mean, we can pour over all these statistics and we can keep putting, like how many hundreds of thousands of these buggers are coming in every month, and they're all coming from countries that, have a lower standard of living, a lower standard of life. I mean, to live in tents in a park here in Australia is probably better than living in whatever condition they were in the place they were in. I get that. They've upgraded from their point of view. This is a great place, which is why they're queuing up. We want permanent visas now because, look, I may be living in a tent. I may be living in abject poverty by the standard Australian standard, but it's better than the shithole I was in. Of course, they want to stay. The question is this sustainable? Remember the game we had with the word stain and sustainable, on Friday? It's relevant here again. relevant here again, and it's a perfect opportunity to take leftist propaganda and turn it around on them and tell it, sorry, your immigration situation is not sustainable. Much like all your sustainable energy and all your sustainable crap, this is not sustainable either, and another opportunity to take what they have done, what they are doing, and turn it around on them. And, don't be, they can throw the racist card at you. How I deflected that quite easily with this dude.
Talking about immigration in Australia.
See, there we go. That's how racist I am. I got a Chinese man's point of view. That's how. I'm going to guess he's Chinese because he actually used a little bit of Mandarin, which I learned a little bit too. That's it, mate. It is definitely sus. It is all sus. It's so sus that the immigrants that have been here for long enough to learn the country and the culture who are also pissed off. It was one of the things I loved about the protests. We're like, you're finding people from European nations that come from friggin' socialism and communism. Why are you standing here protesting against government mandates right now? Because this is what happened in our country before it turned to shit. They've come here, they've seen how good this is, and now they're defending the fact that, hang on, life was better fucking 10 years ago. This government is taking us down the path that ruined our country. They've got the sense to stand up and fight for this country, and they're immigrants. These people come from another country. They appreciate, maybe they appreciate it better than some Australians. Maybe some Australians need to go over to some third world shithole, go and live there for a little while and realize, hey, we've got something worth fighting for here. Because old mate here certainly realizes this. Some of the immigrants down at the protests seem to immigrate, seems to assimilate that concept pretty well too. So come on, ladies and gentlemen, at what point do we get together and go, right, we've had enough. This cost of government shit has got to end. Because that is the new catchphrase. I want you to spread it far and wide from here on in. Anybody ever says anything about cost of living, what do we say? Loud and proud, it's not the cost of living. My life has not increased in cost. The cost of government has increased the cost of everything that we need. Everything that we had has now increased because of government and the shit decisions they have made. Just like I explained to the idiot at the bank who was trying to, convince me I need to give up personal and private information against my will to maintain an account that I've had since I was born. I explained, I said, look at the question here. It says, how did you get in this current financial position? There's no option for me to hear say decades of shit government, because that's the truth. You want me to answer this question? Give me an opportunity to answer it properly. I'm not going to take your multiple choice bullshit that basically every option incriminates me in some way. Fuck off. That's entrapment. She didn't seem to like my opinion very much, but I told it to her anyway. Fuck them. I've had a gutful, and you should have, and she should too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, rant over. We are at an hour and a half, which is a bit longer than I was kind of expecting it. Is there anything I think we really need to sort of dive into through my... Oh, that's not the right folder. That's last week's folder. Friday's folder. Actually, I think this one ties up the concept quite well. A bit of Tucker.
Really globalists, are they? Because they're not doing this to China and Africa and the Middle East. They're not saying those nations need to invite a lot of people from different parts of the world.
It's only one side.
It's anti-Western.
Yes.
They're saying that there's something about a majority white Christian country that's inherently threatening, and we're going to destroy it. And that's it is exactly what they've done. It's around the world.
They did that in France, in UK, in Germany, and now in Canada.
Yes, you've got basically Russia left. And of course, that's the country they hate most. So it is a tell. Like, they're not screaming at Chairman Xi to let in a bunch of people from Nigeria. It's like not even on the table. They're not even demanding Japan do that. It's just Canada, UK, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and the US, and that's it.
Yeah, you bang on there, Jake. Unfortunately, some of the people who are intense are not the migrants. They're suffering as a result of this shit. And that's fucked up. We're not even looking after our own people, and this is how this shit starts. This is how it starts. You go and have a look at any of those shithole countries, and they've all suffered the same cost of government crisis. The cost of their government is it turned our country into utter shit. you go back into the history books. Like you take China, for example, it's a perfect example. You know, it's a communist wasteland now. Nobody's queuing up to say, hey, I want to go live in fucking China. At least none that I'm aware of. If anybody is queuing up right now to go and live in China, please tell me why. I'd like to know. But as far as, you know, it's a communist wasteland. The place is absolutely ruined, you know, where, you know, and the best analogy I have for the scenario is once upon a time, they had fine China. You know, the plates and the dishes, you know, wonderful, fine china, high quality, handcrafted product that was worth a lot of money because a lot of time, effort, and personal manual love and creation goes into those things. They had a wonderful culture from, you know, time gone, and it's all gone now. Now all we've got is cheap Chinese shit. That's what communism has done to China. That's what the government has done to China. You know, Russia, thousands of years of history, wonderful, big, strong culture, country. You know, they've gone through, live in some of the harshest conditions on the fucking planet. You know, like it's a frozen place. Wouldn't really want to live there, to be honest, because the weather really sucks. But I'd be curious to see what it's like. But communism, again, absolutely ravaged that place for 100 fucking years. The Opium War, exactly. Yeah, Opium War changed China. Again, government, you know, and trade deals. But, you know, some people will blame the British, but at the end of the day, you know, everybody, you know, has their own cross to bear in these things. But again, from a certain point of view, China's always had, you know, a very dictatorial construct with its dynasties and emperors and all these sorts of things. All cultures on earth have basically suffered the same problems, and we've always suffered the same problems. Government, kings, queens, emperors, one tiny little asshole making shit either good or bad, and the rest of us just keep going along with this. Why? What the fuck is wrong with the rest of us? You know, like, why do we keep going along with this shit? It just does my head in, you know. Now, I don't know what everybody else was doing in high school and stuff while they were talking about these things in history. I'm just sitting here going, fuck me. And I'm looking around. I'm like, yep, look at them all. Fucking morons. I've been surrounded by morons all my fucking life. Yeah, it's like that scene in Spaceballs. Keep firing, assholes. I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes. That's how I felt all my fucking life. Finally got a podcast where I can actually talk about it to more than myself. But anyway, I guess, look, at the end of the day, this is just
so what I
my...
told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
And this is just my point of view. You can tell me to go get stuffed if you like, you know. In the meantime, I think the best thing we can do with the government right now is look to Beavis and Butthead for some wisdom.
Please come out. Please.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, that's what we got to do with our government. Please come out. And then, kawoosh. Yeah, what was it? Al Bundy, the Ferguson. Actually, I've got to add that to my repertoire of little things we can add into to finish off the Beavis and Butthead joke. You know, is the old Al Bundy, the Ferguson. I want a man's toilet. It's got to go kawoosh. What a great show. Oh, back in the day when we had decent television. Wow. Yes, it is. And that's why I left it. You know, Victoria is an absolute turd burger at the moment. And I'm done eating from that burger. You know, but look, you know, this stuff is just my point of view. As I said, this is just my idea, you know, and, you know, where did I first see George Carlin? I seen him with Bill and Ted. I'm going to go watch it in German after this. Why? Because how else to learn a language? But just remember, this is the point of view that you really want to take everything from, ladies and gentlemen.
Socrates, the only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing. That's us, dude. Oh, yeah.
Don't be afraid to be like Bill and Ted and realize that you know nothing. Go out and find that. Married with Children, Christmas special #2. Oh, what happened in that one again? It's been a while since I watched them, actually. I don't know them by that well. It's been about a good 10, 15 years, I think, since I sat down and watched them all. I never got the 11th season. You know, they stopped selling DVDs. Now, the only way I can actually get Married with Children 11th season is to A, download it, or B, buy the whole box set when I've already got the first 10 seasons. You know, like, Ripped off. Anybody you know of a whereabouts of a copy of the 11th season on DVD? That'd be wonderful. I'd like to complete that collection one day. Stonemason and the Master Builders, not my ritual sacrifice pagan freaks. Right. So anyway, I think we're done here. Yeah. Do the best you can, ladies and gentlemen. North Queensland Freedom Network isn't just here for me to have a rant. Feel free to contact me and say, hey, you know what, buddy? I want to get on there and I want to let fly too. I've had enough and I want to start by jumping on this podcast and sharing what I've learned, what I've understood. Put something together, if you've researched something to the nth degree. And I know a lot of people out there do. I get emails all the time from, with big, long things. I'm like, hey, this is great. Do you think you've spent the time, you know this that well that you want to write me a novel? Awesome. How about jump on, present it? I know it's not easy. I mean, I've gotten used to it. Look, nothing like a little bit of liquid courage to help you get through. But consider putting that shit together. If you've spent so long bringing all this knowledge, and I know quite a lot of people, who do these sorts of things, obviously, because I get contact with a lot. You want to research something to that extent. To what are you getting out of it if you're not sharing that with the broader community? That's what this network's here for. If you know things and you want to get it out and you want people to see what's really going on, this is a dangerous tool. They don't like what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they're working so hard to try and stop it. In the next 6 months, things may change. So let's get it out while we can. But that doesn't mean we stop fighting either. We have to take this fight to the problem. You nip it in the butt at the source, and we know what that source is. It's the new catchphrase of the century. It is a cost of government crisis, and it is a global cost of government crisis because they want global governance. Not necessarily a bad idea. Being a Star Trek fan, the idea of a global community of people working together is a wonderful idea. But in this particular instance, the people behind such a construct, I wouldn't trust in any way, shape, or form. Again, it's not the technology, it's not the idea, it's the people and the intention behind it. It's not the gun, it's the person holding it. That's the way to keep these things thinking, at least in my opinion. And otherwise, you can all tell me to go get stuffed. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to click them like and share buttons. At the moment, there's 200 people watching live, and 10 of you have managed to find that button. Doesn't instill a lot of faith in humanity if you can't find the button. It's down there somewhere, or even that way. Somewhere along the screen there's a little heart button or a thumbs up button or something like that. Come on, give them a click. Help a brother out. That boosts the algorithm. There's lots of things. I've seen some people make the comments, oh, we're in an echo chamber. How can we share it any further? It takes a little bit more than just clicking share. It takes a little bit more than clicking the like. But those things help, But, you find another video and drop the link in there, share it around to all sorts of places. Lots of ways you can communicate, even if you're just down the road, hey, I've seen this cool shit. And you got to see this dude, Batty. He was ripping into him hard and he said whatever it was that stuck in your mind, and tell other people about it that you meet randomly. Don't be too full on about it and just say, hey, have you found the new word of Christ or anything like that? You don't want to be offensive and over the top, but there's lots of ways you can share the wealth of knowledge, and particularly with just random people. It's amazing how many times I've come across a random person. They'll say something, it'll make me think of something I've seen somewhere and go, hey, you should go and have a look at this. I think you'll get something out of that. It's not, I don't even sell my own product to people unless I think their mind's ready for it, But if I see an opening for, hey, there's a mind that's asking a question and I have an answer for that, I'm going to guide them to that answer. It's up to them whether they go and take a drink out of that. It's up to them. You can lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink. But at least you led them to the water. Your conscience is clean from that point. So sips to you as well, my friend. All my beautiful friends here who are watching here and now live, and to all those who are watching it into the future, live long and prosper. May we all have a wonderful weekend. We've got a long weekend ahead. I've got another day to actually relax and go, the serenity before the chains and the clasps are lapped back on and economic starvation is staring me down the barrel. In which case, you know, if you're concerned about my economic starvation, please consider becoming a Patreon or dropping me a line on other ways. The ultimate goal is one day that I don't have to go and do some shitty shit kicking job, and I can actually put this together in a far better way and actually go through and go, hey, let's get little segments and small things for the small attention span people, because you know I don't have time to do that, unfortunately. I wish I did. It'd probably grow the channel a lot more, but I need time. Need a bit of funding, even if it's $5, even if it's $2, whatever you can afford. Help us out. And all you Patreons, I've said it a few times, I haven't received any emails. Maybe you guys don't want free stuff. That's okay. If you don't want free stuff, that's fine. But if you're a Patreon, please do shoot me an email with a place I can send things to. Even if you send it to your neighbor and you just sneak it because you don't want me to know your address or whatever, like, what am I going to do with it? Seriously. But anyway, if you would like me to send you some cool shit because you're a Patreon, just you know, send me you know, a place to send it to from the email that you're a Patreon of, so I know that you're a Patreon, and I'll send you out some cool shit. You know, you want to sip along, you know, you'll need one of those. Thanks to Adrian for producing those. You know, if you want to get medieval on your children's butt, you might need one of these, you know. You know, maybe you just want to get medieval on the friggin', you know, take them down to the local council meeting. Right, we're sorting you lot out. We're giving you the wooden spoon your mum never gave you. So, you know, you might need to, hey, maybe that's the new way of solving this. We'll march on Parliament at some stage where it's not freezing cold. Can we do it in summer, please, ladies and gentlemen? Like, missions to friggin' Canberra in winter, like, that's sadistic for North Queenslanders, I tell you. But you know, maybe we'll do it, you know, in February or something when it's a bit warmer, and we'll all march down with them wooden spoons and go, right, we're going to sort you lot out. It's just a joke. I'm not committing acts of violence or encouraging them. I'm joking. It's a laugh. Or am I? Anyone's guess. One last sip, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy.